Hi guys. So we chose Otay Mountain Wilderness for our final project, and it is located near San Diego. It took us around like an hour and 10 to get here, and it is basically a wilderness area that encompasses approximately 16,885 acres and is managed by the Bureau of Land Management. It is also recognized as one for its diverse ecosystems, including the world's largest stand of Tecate cypress and numerous sensitive plant species as well. The rugged terrain featuring steep canyons and hills provides opportunities for challenging recreational activities in solitude, and we're super excited to be here. Starting the Otay Mountain Wilderness before we got here allows us to explore more of the real world applications of wilderness management principles. Understanding the balance between conservation and recreation is very significant as we've gone through the course of RTM 305, and we it lets us appreciate the complexities involved in preserving the natural landscapes. Its proximity to San Diego is also something for why we chose this, because it's very convenient for us to get to this place.
We chose this area, Simone and I, by looking through many articles such as journals from the environment management, the environmental ethics, or the landscapes and urban planning focusing on protected areas, biodiversity, and sustainable tourism. We realized by coming here that it welcomes a lot of tourism and visitors every year that want to escape their daily life, their boring life, their overwhelming life in the city, to come and live prosperity, solitude, and have a first contact with wilderness. We also did some research on Tecate cypress and other endemic or sensitive species found in the Otay Mountains, but unfortunately, we still didn't get to see any wildlife in firsthand. We also read some studies on the social political aspect of wilderness protection near urban areas, because we realized that this area is managed by the Bureau of Land Management that is handling a lot of land throughout the US. So having a first contact with the management is a bit hard, but we'll try to figure out.
Okay, now moving on to the history of the land and the major events that are connected to this. It is basically located within the traditional lands of the Kumeyaay people. They have a deep culture and spiritual connection to the area, using it for gatherings of food, medicinal plants, and ceremonial purposes. This would be the indigenous history of the Otay Mountains. And then moving on to the conservation movement. In the 20th century, increasing awareness of the area's ecological value, particularly the Tecate cypress, led to its designation as protected wilderness in 1999 under the California Desert Protection Act. Its proximity to the US-Mexico border has led to its use as a migration route, prompting border enforcement measures that sometimes conflict with conservation goals. During the Spanish and Mexican colonization, indigenous access to these lands was disrupted. Ranching and agricultural expansion further displaced the Kumeyaay. Okay, moving on to the land controversies of the Otay Mountains. The border wall constructions and increased surveillance in the area have raised environmental concerns, disrupting wildlife corridors and affecting the natural landscape of the place. Nearby urban expansion and infrastructure projects, including proposals for roads and utilities, etc., have sparked debates about balancing development with conservation. Wildfires, for example, this region has been prone to wildfires, often linked to human activities, raising concerns about the resilience of sensitive topics like the Tecate cypress trees. The recreation impact of this was the overuse by off-road vehicles enthusiasts and illegal activities that took place, such as unauthorized trails, have sometimes also led to the degradation of the wilderness.
Now, we're going to delve into the different approaches that the land managers put in place to protect this land. So as we said, it's the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, and they oversees the Otay Mountains wilderness with these following strategies. First of all, the protection of sensitive ecosystems. As we said, they focused all of their efforts to conserve the Tecate cypress and other endemic species in this area. Of course, they've put in place a lot of wilderness restrictions that goes from prohibiting motorized vehicles and mining and mechanized equipment to maintain this area as a natural site. Even us, to get here in this core area, we had to park our car like 10 minutes away from this trail to be able to get here. They also have a lot of wildfire management in place because this area is sensitive to a lot of fires during the entire year, and especially during the hot seasons. So they implemented fire prevention strategies and promoted native vegetation recovery after the wildlife. They also have a border collaboration because they work with the federal border agencies to mitigate the environmental impact of border security measures. And of course, finally, how the education and the outreach by providing a lot of information to visitors about responsible recreation and of course the ecological significance of this area.
Okay, so now moving on to the recreation opportunities, which we also learned in class over the entire semester. Wildfire watching is an opportunity to observe rare plants, birds, and other wildlife in their natural habitats. Hiking. This is mainly known for hiking, as it's called the Otay Mountain Hiking Trail. And this consists of trails of varying difficulty, allowing visitors to explore the rugged terrain and enjoy panoramic views, which we have been seeing over the course of being here. Then we move on to the solitude and meditation, and this is ideal for those seeking a quiet, reflective wilderness experience, trying to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Having peace, solitude, and calmness is a place for why people would come here, and that's what I'm feeling already, which is amazing. And for people who love to be photographers, they would love to come here to take the scenic landscape pictures, unique plant life that would also attract them as photographers.
Now, we're gonna delve into the visitor use management of this land. So over here in the Otay Mountains, there's a lot of restricted zones that are areas with sensitive habitats, such as the Tecate cypress stands, and they have limited access to protected ecosystem. Then we're gonna talk about the permits to get over here, to get to the Otay Mountain trails. First of all, we came from another route where the trail was closed, and we met some ranger forces that showed us the actual way to get in, because the other way you had to have a permit to get it, so it was like new information for us. And we realized that there is a lot of special permits that are required for group activities or for research purposes like ours. Then there's monitoring and enforcement. The BLM staff volunteers regularly monitors visitor activities to ensure the compliance with the wilderness regulation of the Otay Mountains. And of course, in this area, there's a lot of educational signs, like trailheads and entry points that include signage to educate visitors on leave no trace principles and the importance of preserving this type of area.
Moving on to the visitors who'd like to come to the Otay Mountain Trail. They love this outdoor place. Why? Because of the local outdoor enthusiasts and nature lovers from San Diego that make this place for what it is. Conservationists and researchers studying biodiversity and wilderness management. Hikers and photographers are drawn to the unique terrain and solitude of the place it has to offer. Now, for who doesn't, and why do people not want to come here, and the barriers that they need to face to get here? So one would be the financial barriers. That would consist of having access, which is free travel costs and gear requirements, may deter the low income of individuals, where they can't find a good commute to actually come from point A to point B. Accessibility issues. The rugged terrain and lack of paved roads make it challenging for individuals with mobility limitations. For example, you don't have a car. There's no other way to get here. Awareness. Limited promotion and educational outreach means some potential visitors are unaware of what the site has to offer overall. So while getting into the Uday Mountain Trail, there were people to help us in order to find where the place exactly was, if there was parking, a little cafe in case we needed someone to talk to about where to go. And it wasn't as, there could have been more signages around, and it wasn't as easy to get through to where we got, but we made it. And there wasn't many information boards that had information about what this place has to offer, so we kind of had to figure it out on our own, but we made it. Hi, my name is Simone, and I'm here for my final research project from the SCSU's Wilderness class. I would like to thank you for taking the time off to sit with us and take this interview.
Hey Simone, thank you for inviting me.
Of course. I would like to start off by asking you what your name is and what position and job you have in this field.
My name's Brandon Anderson, and I'm the field manager of the Otay Mountains Conservation Area in San Diego.
Nice. Have you always worked here? And if you have, how many years in total have you worked in this field for?
So I've been working in this position for about 8 years now. Started as a volunteer in a local environment group when I was in college, and then I started taking on various conservation roles.
Sweet. How did you end up working here? Like, what made you want to work here?
So I actually grew up in this area in the Otay Mountains, hiking and exploring, especially as a kid, which inspired a passion for environmental stewardship. And the role I'm taking right now does a lot. It allows me to merge my love for nature with leadership roles and strategic planning. I also wanted to contribute to preserving the mountains for future generations, like national parks, stuff that's great for society.
Nice. What was your favorite part of being in this position that you would want to highlight?
I'd say the most important part was witnessing the impact of conservation efforts firsthand, like seeing rare species that were once endangered thrive. I'd say another one would be collaborating with the community to promote environmental awareness.
What is your perspective on climate change overall, and do you think it affects the land and the conservation of the environment?
So climate change for me is a very pressing issue. If you see in the news recently, the temperatures have been rising and droughts have become prolonged, impacting farmers and native ecosystems.
Nice. To move on, what are the pros and cons of being involved in such a position working in the wilderness area?
So for pros and cons, let's start off with pros. The first one would be the direct impact on protecting the environment and preserving natural landscapes. Also gives me a sense of purpose and fulfillment in the work. But for cons, I would say necessarily physically and emotionally demanding. The budget constraints and balancing public use with conservation needs can be tough at times, for sure.
Nice. And to finish off this interview, I would like to have your final opinion on any experiences that you've had with wildfires, or if you've not, but if you have, how did you overcome these problems over the years?
Yeah, so I've actually experienced several wildfires, including the one that was here 3 years ago. And I also collaborated with firefighters to contain the spread using controlled burns and fire breaks. I also focused on long-term recovery, like replanting native vegetation, stabilizing soil,
Nice.
Stuff like that.
Nice. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for inviting me.
Now we're going to talk about how the class debate has a connection with what we're doing right now. So some of issues that were discussed in the debate evolves around strict conservation, about how to maintain sustainable tourism, and of course the land use conflicts. Some perspective that emerge in the debate have a reflect on what's going on here right now. The land is focused on maintaining wildlife and maintaining as much of a natural aspect of the wilderness around us. None of the management are here for profits. Everything here is made about protecting the land and conserving it for future generations.
After listening to the class debate, the winner for me was the Sierra Club. And why is because it had a connection to where we are right now. And I would say that the debate reflected how the site is currently managed because of how protected the area is, the land is, the protection of wildfires, the different conservation management, the sustainable tourism where tourists actually come for a reason. And this is also for why I came, and even if I wasn't doing this project, I feel like this is a lovely place to actually come, let loose, have a peace of mind, and actually settle, have this feeling and sense of solitude overall. In my opinion, I would say as compared to which seems stricter, I would say honestly they both were equivalent because the Sierra Club and Otay Mountain Trails had a lot of similarities in terms of in terms of like the lands that are being protected, in terms of like how we got here using the GPS. It wasn't that easy. We actually had to stop, talk to some rangers because we stopped at a border control. As we met the rangers at the US border control, what happened was we couldn't have access to go into that road, so then we had to find a different route, which they helped us with, which was really kind because if it wasn't for them, we'd be lost. And we made it to the place, and when we got here, we actually didn't know exactly who to talk to or how to get to the particular spot, but we had like a good 20-minute walk from the car to where we are, and it's just, that's how Sierra Club was related to this place, because it was the benefits of actually coming to this place isn't just for human beings. I feel like it's more for like conserving the land, protecting the different areas of the Otay Mountain Trails, and having a connection to recreation also in terms of protecting land overall is what we've been learning in the course of RTM 305, and that's what I see here.
Now we want to check of how our opinions on managing wilderness areas change after our visit. Honestly, my opinion about wilderness was really extreme. At the beginning, for me, wilderness areas were designed to be wilderness areas. When human beings start to like protect them by implementing like barriers or like designated places, for me, it doesn't belong as wilderness area anymore because the humans already put their impact into the area. But now, honestly, when I think about it, it is important that some places have to be protected. Because if we keep continuing like that, humankind is not kind to the wilderness and the nature around us. All of us were really based about making profit.
After researching for our final project, we had to come up with the GMP, which is nothing but the General Management Plan. This consisted on preserving the natural ecosystem while enhancing visitor experience at the same time. It outlines sustainable trail maintenance practices, promotes responsible tourism, and also ensures the protection of native flora and fauna. To conclude, I would like to say that wilderness areas serve as vital ecological and cultural refuges. They are central to debates on the conservation and management. Exploring a specific site highlights in its biodiversity and management challenges. This also connects to broader discussions on balancing conservation with sustainable development.